So I'm going to introduce myself real quick. I know we kind of took a little overtime. I'll introduce myself, jump to a quick demo, and then kind of discuss two case studies that we have with production customers. So a little bit about myself. Always been a product guy. Really likes to solve problems. I'm really excited about these times where technology really influences our lives every day. I'm using 5 to 10 apps every day. From Uber to Waze to the SaaS products, the B2B SaaS products. So I'm really excited about building a Trizek and kind of helping product teams with that challenge. I was, as Nick mentioned, former CEO and founder of Insightera. Back in Tel Aviv, was great insights from Ken and from Jiddu about the initially how to kind of build a product. I can promise you one thing, it's very hard. Especially if you bootstrap a company, it was kind of challenging. We built a company back in Tel Aviv. I moved over here a few years ago. And then my wife got me to kind of run marathons. And I can tell you that I've kind of tried running the last Napa marathon, and I wouldn't completely recommend that. I can actually have other ways to kind of experience Napa if you're going there. Cool, so some insight from kind of building a SaaS company or a new product. Back in the days, we could really kind of keep close touch with our customers. We knew what they are trying to solve. We were kind of working with the early adopters mostly when we just built the company and built the product. It was fairly easy to pivot quickly and making sure we are not kind of a solution looking for a problem, really hitting on the problem correctly. And then at some point we hit the product market fit, and then we kind of started kind of going with the go-to-market fit period. In that kind of period, what we discovered is actually we can use our product as a sales market tool. Like basically what we've done is immediately after the first slide, show our product. So the users, the customer, the prospect, they can quickly see the value in it. And our competition was kind of stuck in slideware. They're kind of doing the enterprise model. And we were surprised to actually be kind of going into really large accounts like SanDisk and closing a deal in 3 months just by kind of being able to really deliver on what we promised and showing the product quicker. Instead of kind of being stuck on slideware, just jump to the product. They understand. They feel more confident about your product. And it's definitely coming to B2B. In B2C, obviously, kind of what I expect is to try quickly. Now in B2B, it's happening the same way. So as we say, like experiencing a product worth 1,000 slides, and that really helped us in our competition. After a few years, we successfully got acquired by Marketo. And in Marketo, as I said, I was leading the global engineering team. And back then, what we were able to do together with Nick Bonfiglio is really to deliver and build more products. But it was really challenging to know what's going on inside the product. We were trying to figure it out, and basically what we've done is like we were able to speak with power users, not necessarily the early adopter or early majority, for example. We tried to communicate the product using the outbound way. We would tell you about the next release notes, and we try to kind of tell you about the values, but we didn't really look on which stage are you in that adoption journey, which is key. I would try to kind of pushing predictive content or predictive lead scoring to a person who's just trying to kind of just understand Marketo and sending an email was just a misfit. But marketing systems, they have the data about the leads, the station, so the situation, the status. And the CRM system has the data about the account, but nobody really sees what are you doing as a user inside the system. So that visibility was kind of missing, and it was really hard to instrument the product as well. Trying to instrument a platform like Marketo or any kind of product means engineering effort, and this is also a problem we try to address with Trizek. And what we absolutely wanted to kind of achieve is engaging our user in a more effective way. We clearly knew that if we're going to onboard you to a relevant feature contextually as you're using it, if you've completed your email marketing program, it's actually a better time to go to the web campaign, and from that I'll kind of nurture you into the predictive content. I wouldn't try to fast forward that. Also, helping our sales and marketing, it was really hard to orchestrate all these efforts and get the marketing and sales behind the new products in Marketo. We launched a mobile product, we launched analytics, we launched the new email editor, but it was really hard to kind of get the sales and marketing behind it because they're using to use kind of specific set of data and specific set of tools to engage users. It wasn't really real time, it wasn't that contextual when it comes to usage inside the product. So it led us to kind of build Uptrinsic, and our mission is really to help product teams to really grow the product through adoption. Obviously, I believe that in the product team, growth and adoption is something that is part of the product team. It shouldn't be just sales or marketing, and also in B2B. In B2C, it's pretty straightforward, but in B2B, it becoming a notion of that. So I'll just kind of orchestrating all these efforts is kind of what we want to help you do. And to deliver customer experience and to be able to experiment on your product is something we'll enable you to do with our platform. And the bottom line, if you're going to engage your user contextually and drive them to the next feature at the right time, you're going to see increase in adoption. And this is what we're trying to do. So I'm going to jump to the product real quick. It's a fast forward onboarding with different kind of capabilities, not necessarily the one you'll implement for the first day, but imagine this is a kind of a gradual step and a journey that we are building to, with our customers. Imagine that I was invited to Uptrinsic. I've never heard about Uptrinsic. And we have a way to kind of land and expand. We have the champion. We pitched Uptrinsic. He knows exactly what Uptrinsic is doing, but now he invited another person. That person never heard about Uptrinsic, and we are not kind of a B2C or kind of a feature, one feature kind of a platform. So for us, it's the opportunity to tell him what actually we're doing. So as he logs into the, and I know don't use Slider as a mobile on B2C, but in many cases, that's your opportunity to speak about the value a little bit, and especially in B2B, if you have a rich set of values, you may want to make it short, but definitely you want to kind of talk about these values. I'm just gonna, it's one really important part is what do I drive you to try to do as initial onboarding or based on your stage right now. In this specific case, I'm gonna understand that you've never enabled Uptrinsic tag, and I'm gonna drive you to create a product. This one has already a product, but we support multiple products. It's really easy to add another product, but in our case, imagine that I'm kind of building the product, and now I can actually listen to the data flowing in. So once I'm completed that task, I want to engage with you and say, congratulations. Now, imagine I kind of came back, and now it's the time to focus on our data. Focus on our North Star. Actually, Ken had a great session back on that part. So here, what I want you to start looking at is what you really care about. It can be daily active users. It can be new leads, new acquired users. It can be feature goals and adoption. It's really up to your growth strategy. You definitely need to kind of some time to kind of look, understand before you engage. With Uptrinsic, we capture every event. So you can always go back. You can always kind of relearn, remap stuff, and kind of understand where you stand and what is your kind of baseline for adoption. That's really, really important step before you jump into engaging your user and kind of running those experiments. So I'm going to kind of jump into the Audience Explorer. We track automatically each of your user. We provide you behavioral data automatically, and you can also send us kind of any attribute you have on the user. In this case, I can kind of dive into a specific user. I'll dive into myself, for example. And here I can actually see, when was I last signed up, what was my last interaction, which segment I participated in right now, and my journey, my adoption journey. I can actually see which features I'm actually using, and where am I in the onboarding process. And the onboarding process, by the way, is always happening. From the first ad I see about the product, inside the product, and after I'm becoming a premium account, you always need to onboard them to the next stage. Otherwise, you basically lose the game. So we also kind of give you any kind of profile data as well. And let me just jump into the account level we just recently released. In account level, you can really focus on higher or kind of roll-up strategy with regards to account. In many cases, you might have one champion who's really happy with you guys, but the account might be a jeopardy because that person might change jobs. The land and expand is very common practice in B2B, and what you want to do is being able to really speak consistently on account level, understand why are they using your product, and kind of guide the account level users towards the same goals. So we added the account dimension to that, and you can really segment and target the account level as well. Moving next to the segmentation. In segmentation, we help you map the behaviors of the user. It can be anything from the way when they sign up to the product usage. So mapping that behavior is key for you to understand and engage them in real time. So let me just go into a new segment just to show you the power of that mapping. It can be initial onboarding, and I can use any user level attribute, or when did they sign up, and how many times they actually visited your app, any behavioral data about them. Also, you can add any kind of attribute or customer attribute that you might provide. Obviously, you can go and add an account level. In our case, for example, to me, it's very important to understand, did you actually set any engagement? How many engagement have you built with Uptrinsic, for example? Another really cool thing you can do is now take action when they're actually using the product. Like I did right now, I can actually detect that someone is building a segment for the first time, and then basically give them the guidance to say, hey, you might want to use the product features to engage. You can detect this kind of state automatically inside your product, which gives you a lot of contextuality to your engagement. And this is the key thing, is I can detect that someone actually created a product, and maybe I can guide them to kind of create the engagement themselves if it was inside Uptrinsic. So that is a very powerful tool, and you can combine all of it together. User account level, feature level, you can really understand even when they came from. If you're kind of doing free trials, for example, you can track the ads they came through. If it's just a POC and standard B2B, you can go with even firmographics, or what, the size of a company, because in many cases you have different verticals or different industries, and you might have different personas. So you want to map their behavior and kind of engagement in a contextual way. Everything you map here is going to be a real-time triggering to the engagement I'm just going to show. So I'm going to go next to the engagement itself. Let me just delete that. In the engagement is basically helping you to build these journeys and to speak to each person individually. Like, that sometimes you have different personas. In Marketo, we had the marketer, the content writer. We had the analyst that wants to look at the marketing data. And we had a demand gen guy that just wanted to shoot out campaigns, and we had to kind of address them differently. We couldn't back then in Marketo, but right now we actually can. We can tell you about the relevant features as opposed to just say, hey, try to use this new product and new features. We can become now more contextual in that case. So let me just show you kind of how easy it is to kind of build these kind of guides. I'm going to pause this campaign. We just show how we are drinking our own champagne, so to speak. So all I had to do is go into that editor, and we kind of use universal editor to any of your engagements. And what you do here is first define the audience. Who will qualify to that real-time triggering? And that's very important. You need to want to be very specific. Don't just start spray and pray. Just make sure that you specify the right audience. Next step is just to define the content, what you want to show them. And here you can use a rich set of templates. You can build your own templates or use out-of-the-box templates. In the editor, you actually all you need to do is kind of use a WYSIWYG, and you can edit any part of the text. You have a rich set of features you can enable the way it should behave inside your app to really fit your user experience. And mapping these steps can be done pretty easily. Just save it. Mapping these steps is, again, a simple part. You don't really need an army of engineers to do that. We automatically kind of open a tag on your app, and we allow you to really select any visual element and attach these multi-step guides for you. So I'm going to go back to the editor, just show you we have a flexible schedule. You can really control also when, not only who's seeing that, when, and also the threshold, how many times should they see it, and then easily kind of to launch the campaign. So it's really kind of 5-step engagement to any type of engagement. You've seen like dialogues, you've seen guides, you've seen sliders. There's more advanced engagement you can build, but this is kind of the core of these engagements. Now, 2 areas I want to kind of touch on when I'm completing this demo is, one is the product mapper. We know that's really hard to instrument your product to know what's going on. So with a product mapper, I can actually, as a product manager, want to look at features and modules I really care about. I want to start tracking them automatically without waiting for engineering cycles and release cycles. So if you haven't intrinsically installed, you can easily create these modules and features and build the hierarchy you want. And in the same way, through the UI, you can go into your UI, inside your app, and start just marking these elements, tagging these features, and automatically what will happen is we're going to deliver you more analytics. And the last part is our analytics capabilities. We want to give you more than just page views and events. We want to tell you what features are actually being used, where each customer are in the journey, and you can really focus on your key dimension or North Star to make sure that you're on track. We'll obviously track all the engagement, how they're doing. We're also going to track the feature adoption, and we can allow you to really understand and tie bookings and revenue to your engineering investment. We want to basically maybe create a filter based on who's using my features, whether it's based on revenue, for example. I can do SMB or enterprises and can apply this feature that will tell me what is the leading feature for enterprise, which might be kind of the workflow, the permissions, this kind of automation, as opposed to SMB that they care about engagement and doing quick stuff with the platform. You can also save reports, and I've built my product qualified lead reports. I can actually use the segmentation to say if you've completed that journey, to me you're qualified, you understand Uptrinsic, and it's the right time to actually engage with you and maybe kind of help my marketing and sales say these are the accounts you should be focusing on. We have the golden features, basically, which says that the core features normally and there's sticky features that you already know, and you want to monitor them being adopted and drive user to adopt them because that will guarantee your success, renewal, and as Ken and Jiro mentioned, renewal, retention is something that you definitely want to focus on and a growth stage. I'm running some experimentation, definitely splitting between power user and new users. That's definitely different stages of different people. Power users will be very vocal and they'll tell you what they need and they'll be very sophisticated. But you need to make sure, obviously, as Ken mentioned, and Jiro, just look at the new onboarding guys. They will try your app. The early majority will give you 5 minutes to understand what the app does, and they will never come back if you don't really look at that. And you want to focus on that first mile for these guys. You want to prioritize based on that. So I'm going to finish the demo. I want to thank the engineering team that worked very hard last year to make this platform available. And I'm going to go back to the slide. First one is Anodot, really cool anomaly detection system. Their challenge is they have very powerful platform. They can detect anomalies in your data. How they can make it simple? How can actually help users adopt their product? So they, as an analytics company, they focus on account level metrics. They want to land and expand. And they provide you with very powerful tool to really detect anomalies, and they are multi-vertical kind of solution. So with them, we can detect the relevant industry and speak the same language, whether it's ad tech or fintech, to the user which is basically being onboarded. One of the core features, the golden feature, is the alerts. And you might go in, you might not see any data, and you're just going to be disappointed. What we help them do is really suggest, hey, you want to maybe play with the data scale, time scale, or significant score, and suddenly the whole experience, then you actually get it because you suddenly see data. And it really depends. It depends if you have data there. It depends, if it's your first time. So this is a way they use our triggering to do that. Over time, we graduate the user to use the basic features as well, which they see as expansion for their platform. And now I'm going to go into Follows. It's a really cool platform. I want to invite David Gutman.
Thank you, Mickey. It's my pleasure.
So, in Follows, when we met them first, we kind of we tried to understand the product, and we understood there's a unique use case, and we understood that there is actually a need to classify the audience. And can you kind of speak about what is Follows and on these kind of audience?
Absolutely. So Follows is an account-based marketing platform. We're focused on helping our customers build strategic, personalized, engaging campaigns that engage their accounts. If you don't know what account-based marketing is, it's actually changing the way that B2B go-to-market is happening these days. For us, our strategy is essentially land and expand. So we would land with initial deal and initial use case, and we would grow in terms of number of users. We could expand to new use cases, and we can expand in terms of power features. So for us, it's really critical to be able to track the different personas that we have in our system, and I'll talk about. We essentially serve both marketeers and sellers. So marketing departments essentially build the campaigns, and sales are the ones that deliver them. They both consume analytics, so we have two very distinct personas that we serve. For us, be able to track the adoption of the features essentially is an opportunity for an upsell or a cross-sell opportunity. So it's talking about adoption and revenue and how they're connected. It's almost one and the same for us.
Okay, and what we actually built there is the first set of features you want to create in Tholos, and as you complete that, you move into the analytics sections. Once you launch your first campaign, you move to analytics, and then moving to kind of the real-time pulse table, which is a new feature. And in very specific cases, they want to actually offer a very powerful feature to relevant users, which is the send on behalf.
Yeah, that's critical. So if I want to introduce a new feature to a segment, clearly I don't want to bother my salespeople with the send on behalf. This is a marketing feature. So whenever a new user logs in, I can identify that they're from marketing. And even more than that, within marketing, we have two different personas. So the one that actually builds the campaigns and the one that is going to send them on behalf of sales. They're more of field marketeers. And those kind of things you cannot identify through a title or through profile information. You can only do that essentially through their actual activity in the system. So I call it self-segmentation. It's not segmentation that you would pre-build or pre-define. You would discover those segmentations based on real-time behavior. And then for some of those users, and that's what we've done, we've essentially routed them to a new functionality that we've introduced, which is the send on behalf.
Yeah, another cool thing we saw you guys do is kind of align your go-to-market. You launch a new release, and they kind of also launch the webinar and release inside the product as well to complete the marketing side.
Yeah, so essentially an in-app experience that is able to drive people to marketing activities. This is a webinar, very educational, by the way. So this is not promotional, it was very educational, that specific feature. And also as a company that drives thought leadership in the ABM space, we find ourselves, every time we introduce a new feature, there is thought leadership that comes with it. So imagine us actually pushing thought leadership information or best practices on how to do this specific feature, how to implement that as part of a user journey, which makes it much more contextual, easy, and to the point.
And before we kind of complete that, you mentioned that for you to orchestrate everything was challenging. You try to use multiple tools. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, we all use analytical tools. Most of them are web analytical tools. I find them really more built for website tracking, not for product tracking. And every time I'm trying to take those tools a little bit to the limit, it kind of breaks. So what I found is the ability that the tool has been built for product allows us to essentially segment a set of features under a certain persona, do the self-discovery, but also start acting on it. And what I mean acting is start kind of with the basic, just understanding your users, and then start within the same platform being able to start and engage them and drive adoption. It could be with in-app guides, it could be with information, it could be with links that takes them externally, it could be with essentially all kinds of gamification and drivers. So the fact that you're able to model your user journey from analytics to action, you're able to test it A/B test it or ABC test it, and then implement it, I think makes it much easier. Right now, before kind of using Aptrinsic, we essentially used 3 different tools for the entire journey. And I think combining them into one tool that you can model it makes us very excited about the potential of what we can get with the tool.
Last question is just like, who owns the product adoption? I know in B2B it's not like trivial, and we feel like sometimes product managers B2B don't feel they own the adoption side, and sometimes obviously it's the opposite. How is that happening in Follows?
So it's jointly, it's an interesting question. It's jointly owned by product and customer success. So we partner with them. Our main goal is to drive adoption. Their main goal is to do the renewals. They're actually also responsible for expansion. They're measured on expansion, which I think is really interesting. I think that ties up. It's a joint project for both teams.
Great. So that was all. I think. Thank you very much for coming in.
Sure. Thank you
guys for joining us.